Hurdles.
Welcome to Nerd Hurdles.
Welcome to Nerd Hurdles, the podcast that encourages you to overcome your geek prejudices.
With Snark.
That's me, Snark.
Oh, you are Mandy, and I am Jacob.
Hello, Jacob.
So when there's something...
You're not going to say hello to me?
Oh, well, I could say hello, Mandy, to you.
That would be nice if you did that.
I did say your name, though.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to tell yourself.
Gets me through the night. When there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call?
Busters.
Pokemon.
What?
There's strange little things in the neighborhood.
It's true, there are. They're everywhere.
And then you get them.
They're on my lap sometime.
You put them in a little containment pod.
You do. Oh my god, it's just like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Can I talk about Busters first?
You can certainly talk about whatever that is.
Busters.
What is Busters?
So when my brother was little, he called farts Merts.
Right.
I'm 5.5 years older than him, so Ghostbusters was cool around that time. We rewrote the song to be about farts. So it was when something stinks
right
in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Who you gonna call?
Right.
Busters.
Your brother had a whole language unto himself.
Not as much as some kids, but he did have a few little cute things.
And interestingly, when you talk to him, he seems to have no recollection of any of these words refuses to.
He was little, little kid. It's just that I was, quite a bit older, and basically he was just this thing that my parents and I would look at and be like, wow, weird. What's he doing now?
Like a cat.
Like a cat or a science experiment.
A science experiment.
Gone horribly awry.
He said that a bit like Holtzman would.
Oh.
So we went to see...
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I figure this episode will talk about two things that the public seem to have been shitting on that are both good.
Mixed feelings. People are having definitely what is it when people are on opposite ends of the spectrum? Polarized.
I was just going to say it's called they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Polarized, that's a good word.
This reminds me of a time when I went on a tour of a brewery in Český Krumlov in the Czech Republic, and we went on the English language tour, but it was run by a cute little old man with a funny cane. That English was not his first language. And he was, I guess, a little bit self-conscious about that or something. And every time he'd say a word and he wasn't sure if it was the right word, he would rattle off half a dozen synonyms.
Right.
And be like, is it this word? And we were just like, how do you know so many synonyms? And think that your English isn't great.
Right.
It was a good tour.
Yeah.
Polarizing points of view people continue to have about Pokemon Go and Ghostbusters. Oh my god, are you going to title this episode Pokemon Ghostbusters?
I was going to go with Pokemon Go.
Oh, Pokemon Go. Well, that's good, because they do refer to it as Pokemon Go.
But I was trying to figure out a way to work in Ghostbusters into the title of the episode. Chances are we're going to talk about Ghostbusters more.
You could say Pokemon Ghostbusters. Like Pokemon Ghostbusters.
Sounds like it's getting complex. And stretching.
That's too much for you and your little pea brain.
Yes.
Oh no, it's too much for our listeners. I'm picking up what you're laying down. He's calling you stupid, listeners.
I was not implying that our listeners are of subhuman intelligence.
You weren't implying it. You were outright saying it.
I was more saying that even a genius would not figure out that title.
You're still offending our listeners. I guarantee you that 98% of our listeners have done online IQ tests and only believe the ones that say they're geniuses.
I usually don't believe the ones that say I'm a genius, just because...
I feel like everyone I've ever done says I'm a genius, so what am I supposed to believe?
Actually, I usually bomb out on the spatial awareness ones. Questions so poorly that no IQ test reel or internet has ever labeled me a genius.
It's because you have more marbles in different tubes than that.
It's true, but I'm not a genius. Don't have full tubes across the spectrum.
I don't know, man. Those people just have all the marbles in the tubes that are on the IQ test. Any other tube that exists, they have not a single marble in.
Yeah.
Let me explain my marble tube theory, listeners.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's not a commonly used metaphor.
Mm-hmm. It's basically my explanation for multiple intelligences, and I share it with my students, and it's the idea that everybody has the same number of marbles, and your marbles are your intelligences.
Or for you role players out there, these are like you have a certain amount of points that you can distribute.
You're like hit points.
Yeah.
magic points or whatever the fuck.
Well, I don't know, like agility.
Yeah. Dexterity. Or that's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think it is dexterity, isn't it?
I thought agility was different than dexterity.
Oh, maybe.
In those, maybe I'm just thinking of two different role-playing universes. But yeah, like
wow, we are not
intelligence.
qualified to host this show.
No.
So, this is what I tell my students. Everyone has the same number of marbles, but they're in different tubes. And if you meet someone and it seems like they don't have as many marbles as you just haven't figured out what tubes their marbles are in yet. Or if you feel like other people have more marbles than you haven't figured out what tube your own marbles are in. And I talk about it in the context of school because in school only looks at certain tubes. You know, it doesn't look at like if you're really good at like taking care of animals or if you're, super kind to your grandma or you...
Super kind to your grandma is not a very important tube, I don't think.
The thing about the marble tube theory, Jacob...
Is that all tubes are important?
Well, all tubes are important, but different... You know who the marble tube of being kind to your grandma is important to?
Your grandma?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is not to value the tubes differently. Society does that. We know that society does that because society sucks.
Yeah.
And as you can see, because of the polarizing reaction to Pokémon Go and Ghostbusters.
Like school generally teaches you to value certain tubes as well.
It does, and that it's part of society's thing, and it's shitty. And I like watching the kids listen to that and maybe believe it a little bit sometimes. Sometimes they don't, though. Sometimes they look at them and they're like, she's full of shit.
I've got no marbles in any of my tubes.
I don't even have tubes.
Because my parents tell me I have no marbles.
Oh my God, parents do tell their kids that.
Yeah. I
heard a lady the other day, I was in the bathroom at McDonald's. It was during Pride. I peed there several times. We had to wait a long time. And one of the times I was in there, she was in the bathroom with her kid and was like, I don't know, yelling at her to hurry up. And the kid was like, it's gross in here. And she's like, it's not gross in here. It was fucking gross in there. Like, kid was not wrong. Then the mom like opens the door to leave before the kid's like done wiping. And she was like 6 or 7. And then she was like calling her stupid and telling her to shut up. And like she wasn't doing anything. Like she wasn't like going on and on about it being gross. She was like, oh, it's nasty in here. And then she was just like singing a little song or like being like a regular nice kid.
Mom didn't have any kindness marbles in her kindness tube.
Weep.
Know who was missing or felt there were missing marbles? Roland? What was his name?
Rowan.
Okay, I was getting confused because of Scandal.
Yeah.
Rowan from Ghostbusters, the villain.
The men's rights activist.
Yeah. I was like, was he always a men's rights activist? Or was it just as soon as the men's rights activists started throwing tantrums when they announced it was going to be an all-female cast, they changed the script? Because they certainly changed little bits of the script, like obviously little jokes to don't read online comments and stuff. And and I think when they had their little YouTube video up in the movie and they're reading negative comments out, I think those were actual comments about the trailer.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Like, no fucking ghost busting bitches. Bitches don't fuck no ghosts or whatever.
That's a shitty looking gun or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was pretty clever. I don't know. I felt it sort of took me out of the movie a little bit. It was sort of like...
It did, but it's not the kind of movie where you're like,
oh my God.
Oh, you're ruining my full immersion in this world.
My suspension of disbelief has been shattered.
Yeah, you dicks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was totally like men's rights activist-y. But then when you look at villains in movies most of the time anyway, like,
It's ultimately they feel like they've been cast aside by society or didn't get what they've been led to believe by society they should have acquired.
Their due.
They're usually white guys, feel they're not accessing their white male privilege.
Yeah, their well-deserved white male privilege.
And so then they throw a tantrum and try to blow up New York somehow. Which,
by the way we're talking about it, sounds like we're placing the blame squarely on these individuals.
Right.
When it's not their fault.
No.
It's the fault of the patriarchy and toxic masculinity.
And capitalist society that tells you,
that your value or your worth is based on what you have and how much you stack up against other people instead of just looking at your own fucking marbles in your own fucking tubes.
Exactly.
Like, look at he was clearly knew a lot of science stuff. And I think all the barriers to him being successful, and I mean, this is true for all kinds of people, is people getting frustrated that things don't seem to go their way.
Yeah.
And they get all blamey. But like, I don't know, stuff just doesn't always go our way.
Most of the time, well, we're a bad example. We're generally fairly lucky and blessed, I think. But
let's not say lucky, let's say privileged.
I guess genuine bad luck doesn't strike many people often. I just mean, like, I don't know, house hasn't been flooded and
oh my God, why would you fucking say that?
Neither of us been hit by a car.
Why are you saying these things?
Saying that won't make it happen.
I know.
Anyways, that's not exactly the point I was trying to make.
No, but the point is that, like, there have been things where, like, you know, I've applied for jobs that I haven't gotten,
right.
Or, you know, you think something is going to go one way and it goes another way. And, you know, there are times when things don't go your way. And there's sort of 3 things you need to sort of think about or do or happen. Like, you can blame the world and be like, fucked up world.
Yeah.
You can blame yourself and be like, fuck myself, I'm the worst. Or you can kind of, like, I guess, do something in between where you look at the systemic barriers that might be a part of that failure. And you can look at the personal barriers that might have been a part of that failure. And a lot of the time, that whole fuck the world thing or fuck myself thing, if you go too far on either one of those sides, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where, you're not going to be successful because you either have zero confidence in yourself and everyone can tell, and they're like, well, if he hates himself or she hates himself, well, I'll agree. Or you're just this angry person that can't function.
Yeah, you can't reconcile or set aside.
Because society is fucked up and it is bullshit, but you can't let it win.
Yeah.
Although that's easier said than done, depending on how much privilege one experiences.
It's difficult for us to judge that. Like, I feel like I can only academically place myself in those shoes because I don't really experience much. Like, I recognize society as being bullshit and social constructs having negative impacts left and right and center, but none of that really affects me directly a lot. I sort of just float through life fairly easily. On account of your white male privilege. Yeah. I mean, I even look like a freak and it doesn't really negatively affect me. Well, I can think of all kinds of situations where I've faced fewer opportunities because I'm female. Yeah. And I can think of opportunities where I'm, pretty sure that I didn't get opportunities because I'm queer. Yeah. And it's frustrating. And I remember one time when I was in funeral school, and so in funeral school you do 8 months of school and then you do a 12-month apprenticeship. And I'd been doing some observation hours and just some like part-time work at a funeral home near me, and I really wanted to do my apprenticeship there. There was a guy in my program they'd already said he could do his apprenticeship there. And so I was sort of bummed, and I was looking for an apprenticeship, but I wasn't really looking very hard because I wanted to go to this place, and I didn't really think that like anywhere else was going to take me, and so I was sort of like, I don't know what to do. So after first semester, I don't even know how I found this out, but I found out that guy who was in the program with me like failed out of the program, and I was like, oh my God, he's failed out of the program. That means I can have his apprenticeship. So I called the funeral home, and I was like, oh well, he failed out of the program, so can I do his apprenticeship now? Like, that's insane. Right. That was never going to work out in my favor. And I can see that now. But at the time, I was so frustrated because it just didn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you... Like, this guy's stupid. I'm not stupid. But, I mean, that was a pretty sexist place. But they wouldn't let me wear pants. Anyway, long story short, I dropped out, and I'm glad. When I dropped out, I think all the guys in the program had apprenticeships lined up, and maybe only about half of the women did. Right. And there were more men in the program than women. So, like, anyway, sexism. Oh, but the point of that story was that I was right to feel oppressed and society was, being sexist against me. But my reaction to that didn't make things better for me. Right. Yeah. And I that's sort of what I was trying to say was. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. I was just making an example. Myself, I access male privilege quite a lot, white male privilege quite a lot. Virtue of being in a monogamous heterosexual marriage, access hetero privilege a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy for me to say, oh, If you're just a little less angry, you'd be able to get over these barriers a lot easier. But, I can only academically place myself in those shoes. But to actually be in those shoes, it would be like...
Well, and I think that's people's reaction to Black Lives Matter, too, is they're like, why can't you just be less angry? Why can't you just make less a big deal about this?
Yeah, work with the system.
Yeah. The system that's like completely engineered to like ignore people who aren't straight white males, or as what would they call them? Stale pale males.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And sort of like, why work with a system that is fundamentally rigged against you? The only rational reaction to that is to smash that system, to change it, create your own system. To say otherwise is arrogance, really. It's ultimately just placing yourself at the center of the universe to say that the opinion of marginalized people are on the fringes. They're not on the fringes ultimately anymore than the people. Well,
they're only on the fringes if you have this concept of what constitutes the center.
Exactly. But really,
there's no such thing as fringes.
They're the center of their own universe. So they should really be able to have as much power as anyone else.
As like a queer activist. Hey, look, I started that sentence the way Erwin doesn't like. As a queer activist, I found that we, when we're doing work, when we're sort of talking to like the system or whatever, or the rule makers, the bosses of the world.
The establishment,
I feel like we're so apologists. Like we're like, oh, could you please just let us be... do a little bit of this and do a little bit of this. And don't you think this would be good? And like, we're trying to do it completely within the system.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I really noticed when Black Lives Matter did the protest at the Pride Parade this summer was how much that level of action is missing from other parts of like the LGBT activist work. And that because for gay white dudes... the whole being gay thing's not so big of a deal anymore.
Yeah.
So they're just like, well, okay, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all these other people who are more marginalized or, because of their intersectionalities in the queer community, like are still so oppressed, like dangerously oppressed, like trans women of color and anybody who's like gay and poor is pretty fucked. Anyway, so I appreciated... I got a little bit woke,
right? Which
I feel a little awkward saying, like I'm not allowed to say that.
Have you seen the Pokemon memes?
No. Oh my god, amazing!
It's pictures of Pokemon saying like, "We know that the workers control the means of production." I mean, better socialist sayings than that usually, but stuff like it. We know that our feminism has to be intersectional, stuff like that.
Oh man, Pokemon. Pokemon!
They're not perfect, but I mean, they're...
it's funny, though.
It's funny. It's one of those things that's not supposed to be hilariously funny.
No, it's like clever.
But it's clever enough, and it's throwing good ideas around. So
and it also, like, capitalizes on pop culture as a vehicle to get a message out.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we know it's actually pretty effective. Like, if you look at, like, YouTubers and... Like my students, like the number of students who come to GSA meetings and like it eventually kind of comes out that sort of the root of why they're there, the root of why they're allies is because they watch YouTubers that are allies or are queer and talk about it.
Yeah, that's good. Trump supporters would say that is propaganda. Corrupting the youth of America.
Oh my God. Corrupting them for good.
You know what happens after you have a bunch of queer YouTubers? You end up with an all-female Ghostbusters cast.
Which I was not prepared. When we were watching it, I wasn't prepared for that to not seem weird to me.
Right.
Like, I just was like, oh, we're watching a movie. And I don't really feel bad about anything in it, except when they're objectifying Kevin. And I'm not upset that they're objectifying Kevin, but I'm upset because it's reminding me of how that role usually is.
Yeah. I felt like it was almost heavy-handed.
It was beyond heavy-handed.
Wow. But I mean, it was sort of like ineffectively because it was so heavy-handed.
Yeah, it was too far.
Yeah.
Because he was like so stupid.
Yeah, like
he was never really a character.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if he was just just the attractive female receptionist.
I guess so. They always make them stupid too, though.
But not as stupid as he was.
Well, I know, but I think probably the reason they did that is because to make them the normal amount of stupid would be...
He'd just be a dude.
It would be too awful. Like, it would be like doing the exact same thing, and at least by going over the top.
They're saying, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
This isn't coincidental. Mm-hmm. Also, people would be like, why is Chris Hemsworth's character just there doing nothing?
Because they didn't stay till late enough in the credits to see the dance scene. Obviously, that's why Chris Hemsworth was there.
Yeah, he's a good dancer.
He is a good dancer.
He really does do a good Clark Kent strippogram.
Yeah. So funny.
I thought it was also good. I saw some stand-up comedian at some point talking about how Clark Kent doesn't even have lenses in his glass frames.
Oh.
And why can't people figure that out? Doesn't even have glass in those frames. But they didn't play up on that in that scene, which I then realized was crazy because nobody has seen that stand-up comedy routine from 1982 and like carried it with them their entire life and chuckle at it every once in a while, usually when you see a hipster wearing glasses with no lenses. And I was waiting for that
moment. You're like, come on, guys. This is a great opportunity for this callback.
I think it might have been a really early Jim Carrey routine. I don't remember, but yeah.
The other thing that I liked about watching this movie is I was like, ooh, which Ghostbuster am I? And like felt like I could be like, oh, I could be this one or I could be this one.
You are pretty much a combination of Melissa McCarthy and Holtzman. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
That was my conclusion.
Yeah.
And I was like, weird. When have this has never happened. This has never happened.
And the problem, I guess, with all the angry dudes is they can't see themselves in any of those characters, and they're so used to being able to be like, oh yeah, I'm Bill Murray.
I have tears.
or I'm Egon or whatever. And they didn't. For once in their life, they weren't able to do that.
What they should have been able to identify with Roman.
Well,
Rowan.
Was it Roman? Whatever.
We know what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. They paint the one rational guy who sees the world the way it is as the villain.
Oh man, he painted himself as the villain.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was really good, and it was really unfortunate the amount of backlash.
I wish there had been more like buddy time with the women.
I think it went like all movies now compared to a movie made in 1983.
Yeah, way more action.
Yeah, way more action earlier, and just running through the plot and getting the plot going and all the set pieces in line. Whereas, Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, not a slow-moving movie, but also...
A lot slower compared to that.
But a lot slower, a lot more time for you to
think about all the time, like so much character development happens. Like Sigourney Weaver in her kitchen, and then...
That's not character development, though. There's no character development in the original... It's just, but you get to know the characters. You get to know the characters one dimension a lot better.
Okay, fine, yes. Not development, sorry. I misspoke. Yeah, you get to know them better. Like, I feel like the only sort of buddy time that there really was when they were drinking at the bar. Yeah. Sort of towards the end there. And that was nice. Yeah. That was when, I always sort of figured that Holtzman was gay. Mm-hmm. But that was when she kind of outed herself. Yeah, apparently the director was not allowed by the studio to explicitly say that she was gay. What? Yep. She was originally supposed to be more gay. More gay? Well, it was supposed to be, I think, said, like actually acknowledged, as opposed to being like, you kind of had to be queer to understand what was going on in that toast. Well, not just in the toast, but when she said, what did she say? Something like, I'd ask for your number or something. Oh, yeah. Because the toast was too subtle because it was just talking about being friends. Yeah. No, it was all, very subtle. It wasn't even until later when I was like thinking about it and I was like, yeah, she's totally gay. And I was like, oh yeah, she said that thing. Yeah, and there was she reminds me of my friend Vera, kind of. I don't know, some way about her. There's like an element of her personality that reminds me of Vera. Partly it's the hair, I think. Yeah. I wouldn't have minded if they made fun of each other a little bit more. They were all a little bit nice to each other for being such ridiculous human beings. There were certain things that didn't like really follow, like what's her face? I somehow did not pick up their names at all. Like Kristen Wiig's character. Aaron
Gilbert
or something.
Yeah. She's super upset about the book being on Amazon.
Yeah.
And this is sort of how she reconnects with whatever Abby. But then when their YouTube video gets her actually fired, she's just like, I got fired, so I'm hanging out with you guys now. She's like, she should have been livid, at least for 5 minutes, come in screaming, and then they could calm her down and she could decide that she's cool hanging out with them now. But it's just sort of like, there's like sort of like weird...
But that's also like...
It's just the way movies are made.
It's also how I feel like I would react.
Yeah, I guess maybe. Like
I would internalize that blame. Like, take the book down. Don't have the book up there.
Yeah.
But then when that whole thing happened, I'd be like, well, that organization is obviously bullshit.
Yeah.
And, I went and did that stuff. Like, it's my fault. I own that.
Yeah, I guess.
That's how a woman would react, Jacob.
That's true. That's probably also how I'd react. It's sort of like you get really upset about the threat of something.
It wouldn't happen to you, though.
That's true.
They would just be like, oh, isn't he so eccentric? It'll be nice to have this eccentric professor tenured on our staff.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But I do want to talk about how, we're like, oh, this movie was so good and women and blah, blah, blah. It was pretty racist still, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Patty's the one who's not a scientist, and
the Asian guy is just a delivery man.
Oh yeah, the Asian guy.
Yeah, there were no people of color in any shade in any kind of... I guess there was the black FBI cop guy. He was the only...
Homeland Security.
Yeah, he was the only person of color in any role of anything other than extra on the street.
Yeah.
Like even people working in the hotels and stuff. All white dudes.
Which isn't even real. That's one thing I really like about Scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still too many white people in it, but like a character will pop up and they'll be, a black person, and that in no way relates to their character. Like they're just a person. Not that they're like a black person who's like a white person, or not that they're like not still authentically a character who's black.
Well, it's nobody's like, oh, it's amazing that you as a black person are working in Washington at this high level.
Yeah.
It's never like that, is what you mean.
Well, it's never like that. And also, like, I feel like when there's a character in a show or a movie that is a person of color, the fact that they're a person of color is a part of the plot.
Right.
And anyone else is white. Like, if their ethnicity or their racial background isn't going to play into, like, the plot, well, then they're a white person.
There are, however, no Asians. There's no South Asians. It's like just black and white people. That's the only people that exist on that show, really.
Yeah, it's true. It's not as diverse as it could be.
No.
But it's way better than most shows.
Yeah.
And way better than just throwing in, like, a fringe character or, like, like a supporting character.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, look, we checked that box off. We're good to go. Like, there just needs to be more lead characters.
Yeah.
And we need to want that. We need to, like, vocalize that it needs to happen. Because I think that people, like, white people, like, let's think about Stranger Things for a second.
Yeah.
Mike is a white kid.
Yep.
I would say he is the lead of that show.
Yeah.
It's the Mike show.
The Mike show.
Why couldn't Mike be black? Like, why couldn't that family be a black family?
Because he wouldn't be Elliot then.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
I know, and I know that you know what I'm saying, but like, because I think that when I ask that question to white people, our first instinct, and not just white people, like probably lots of people of color who have internalized racism would do the same thing, is to explain why he can't be black, why he needs to be white. And like, even when we were talking about it last episode and I was thinking about it and I was like, why couldn't he be black? Like, in my mind, there's a part of my mind being like, oh, because he just can't be. But that's fucked up. That is fucked up. It is racist and shitty.
Well, it's like if Olivia Pope had been white, you'd be like, why couldn't she be black? And be like, Olivia Pope, black? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, maybe not that viscerally kind of a reaction, but it'd be like, well, but she's so...
That's obviously a white person's job.
Because she's so privileged. You'd have to have lead a really privileged life to sail through life.
Isn't that a fucking catch-22?
Yeah.
You can't have these parts because your people are oppressed.
Yeah. I will say, in the case of Stranger Things, though, it wouldn't have felt like an 80s movie if Mike's family had been black. And the whole point of that show is to feel like an 80s movie.
And I know what you're saying. But I think that you could have done it, and it could have been an indictment of how white all the 80s movies were.
I would say for probably any other show, the argument still stands, though, that, why isn't such and such character black? Why weren't Ross and Rachel black?
My God, yeah, none of the friends were black. That's awful.
I guess they're Jewish.
And then I never even really noticed.
Well, of course not. Why would you notice? We're white and we're young when it was on. So it was like sitcoms were either all white or you had the black sitcoms that were all black, Family Matters and The Cosby Show or something like that. So like you didn't have like any kind of mixed race casts ever, except maybe somebody would date the hot Asian girl.
Or there'd be like a token black person.
Yeah.
Like Facts of Life or...
But usually like a coworker.
Yeah.
A jive-talking coworker in the office, that kind of thing.
Somebody who is one-dimensional.
Brings a little bit of street to the office, the all-white office, and then you get your yucks that way.
Oh, God.
Which is a bit what Patty does. And
she totally does. Like, it's the exact same thing that's wrong with, like, every other movie.
On one side, you say, well, why? Well, there's just so much value for working-class black person as a college-educated person. Because what she brings to the team is a knowledge of New York history. Yeah. Why couldn't she have been like a professor of civic history or whatever? I don't even know what that would be.
And why couldn't someone else have been a transit worker?
Well, no one had to be a transit worker.
Well, no, I know, but like Holtzman, she could have been like a transit mechanic or something who is completely underused.
Right. But it was sort of like, oh, so the black character is the only one who isn't college educated. And is that like, hey, this is the way it is, and that's unfair because she's obviously very smart, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, and you can look at it that way, too.
Yeah, you could say, like, it's a very privileged perspective to say that the only people of value have college educations, and so you're being racist by saying that the fact that she's a transit worker, not a university professor, is somehow degrading. It's a very classist kind of thing to say.
Oh, for sure it is. Yeah. For sure it's classist. But then at the same time... Like, it's not like we have an opportunity to see it the other way. Yeah. Ever. Yeah. So...
Yeah. At least she was there, but she's also only there because of Winslow.
Winston?
Winston? Is it Winston or Winslow?
Did you even watch the original Ghostbusters?
I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Oh, man. We had that shit taped from TV on VHS.
Yeah.
I watched it a lot of times.
I find all the people are talking...
Which is why I can tell you that it is a slow-moving film. Yeah. There are some boring parts.
There are. One thing I find about it, about the backlash, and then like the people talking about how this remake has ruined their childhood or whatever, which is probably hyperbole. Probably not anybody actually believes that or feels that. I'm like... Why do people think Ghostbusters was such a good movie?
Hey, fuck you. It was such a good movie. And when that music came on, like, dun, 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 that music, I, like, got emotional at the movie. So...
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel
I have feelings about Ghostbusters.
I loved it. Like, I mean, I was 10 or 11 when it came out and saw it many times. And it's like, it's a classic, obviously. But it's also...
Listen to you backpedaling.
But I think it's also like Star Wars. It's also kind of a shitty movie.
No, you're wrong.
I just don't think it's that good. It's like...
It's that good.
It's like... I don't know.
The pacing's a little off.
The acting is a little
No, it's
hammy.
Perfect. Mwah. That's exactly what it needs.
Oh, I mean, I think it's good for what it is. I just...
No.
The reverence that it was some sort of untouchable holy grail... that could be ruined by any kind of remake.
This is why it's not an untouchable holy grail. Ghostbusters 2.
Ah.
That movie is terrible.
Yeah, it's not so great.
But
I feel
it doesn't ruin Ghostbusters 1.
I don't feel like it's much worse than the first one.
You're wrong.
I think...
You're wrong.
I don't know.
You're wrong.
Last time I watched Ghostbusters, it was like...
It's fucking good. It's so good. It's everything. And I don't think I really realized how I felt about it.
Right.
Until we watched this Ghostbusters.
Right.
It was like, this one was for me.
What listeners couldn't experience was your look of absolute rapture on your face when you were describing Ghostbusters.
Shut up. It's good.
You had this look on your face like you were smelling a particularly fragrant cheese. Like in a good way. Not like a cheese fart, but like a
pea cheese?
But like maybe a pea cheese if you're a real cheese connoisseur.
I don't
and you're
like pea cheese. It's too strong.
Yeah.
I don't like my cheese to taste like urine.
No.
I guess it doesn't really taste like urine. It smells like urine. I was excited to see Slimer made an appearance.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're a monster.
I don't know. I didn't like the cameos, and Slimer was fine. I like the way they did Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I was a little disappointed that they'd then do Stay Puft Marshmallow Man again.
Yeah, that was stupid.
As like, I don't know.
The monster.
The monster. I mean, yeah, no, it has to end with the monster, but then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man callback was kind of
the
unnecessary.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man callback should have been like, he should have been tiny. Or, like, you can't just have two big things that are the same, doing the same thing. They were too similar.
Yeah, and I found the cameos super irritating and distracting.
They went on for too long.
Sigourney Weaver one at the end, the Easter egg one. If they were all in Easter eggs, that I would have been better with it.
I don't know. I feel like the Dan Aykroyd one was fine. It just was a bit too long. The Bill Murray one was way too long.
Well, the Bill Murray one was fine if he was just on the TV. When he showed up at their headquarters, it was also bad. It was a bad scene. He was shitty in it. He was fine on the TV-ish in that shitty Bill Murray way. As a guy who would be on TV being shitty. But when they made that character flesh, so to speak, it was like, oh, this is bad. Where do I look? What's her face as the receptionist at the hotel was fine.
Yep.
Winston at the end was fine.
That's fine.
But it was just like, cameo. Watching the cameo now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Stan Lee should not appear in any Marvel movies ever. It's kind of the same thing. It's sort of like...
Well, and I feel like, okay, you know how Peter Jackson's always in, he's always in like Lord of the Rings movies, but they're super subtle.
Yeah.
Like you miss them easily.
Oh, totally. I don't know if I've ever really seen a Peter Jackson cameo in the Lord of the Rings movies. Yeah. You've probably pointed one out to me, but I mean, I certainly
his kids are in them too.
Well, I'm not really aware of his kids enough to...
What's wrong with you? You're a monster.
You don't have multiple photos of Peter Jackson's children on your computer?
I definitely had some photos of Peter Jackson's kids up on my wall at one point.
Yeah, we had a big collage.
Shh.
Not of Peter Jackson's children specifically, but of Lord of the Rings. But overall, all my nitpicking aside, and maybe perhaps the fact that I find Ghostbusters really enjoyable, but also don't think it's an untouchable masterpiece. I don't know. I really enjoyed the remake.
Oh, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked the part when I screamed and it was very quiet and everyone laughed at me. It wasn't really a scream. I went, ah.
In a silent theater. It's something vaguely spooky.
The door was creaking open behind someone. And I screamed another time, but it was a loud point, so no one knew.
And maybe other people are screaming as well.
I don't think so.
So, the other thing that people have been polarized on, perhaps more so, and more inexplicably, as far as I can tell, would be Pokemon Go. You seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good. I've been going for walks in the morning after I drop you off for work. And it's a good little extra motivation to go for a walk.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I should go for a walk. And then, I don't know, sometimes going for a walk by yourself can be kind of boring.
Right, yeah.
So it's just that added little, something to do on your walk.
I will say that when we went on a walk yesterday, I was getting pretty irritated with stopping every 20 seconds to wait for you to catch a Pokemon. It
reminds me of our second date.
Right.
When we were in the woods.
Yeah.
And you had to stop every 20 seconds to take a picture of something.
Yeah.
Payback's a bitch.
Perhaps.
I've been waiting for this.
It's amazing that you ever went on a third date. It was so irritating.
Well, I was really being zen about it. I was like, no, this is lovely. This is nice. What's the difference between me standing here for a couple of seconds or me continuing to walk? Does it really change my day and how I'm experiencing it?
Right.
Isn't it lovely to be here and to watch him enjoy this thing that he's enjoying instead of being irritated like some kind of dick? I guess I'll go on a date with him because obviously he would never be pissed at me if I was stopping every 20 seconds to catch alternate reality Pokemons. Right?
Also, it's a park that we've been in a billion times, so there's nothing for me to like look at.
You noticed that weird plant.
Yeah, I did.
See? And it's no different from me stopping every 5 seconds to be like, oh, look at that bird. Oh, look, there's a dead thing. Oh, look, ducks.
Yeah.
Kathy once said that going for a walk with me is like going for a walk with a 6-year-old, which she meant as an insult, but I took as a compliment.
Maybe that's why you like Pokemon Go more than I do, because it appeals to your sense of wonder.
Yeah, I think I like the collection-y aspect of it.
I think I'd find it more appealing if it was harder to find the Pokemons. Like, basically you just have to walk and they appear.
Well, I don't really understand. Like, I think there's a way, because it does show you ones that are sort of proximal to you.
Right.
And I think there are ways to, like, figure out how to get to other ones in that list, but I haven't really figured out how to do it.
Right.
Like, I can't tell if I'm getting closer or further. Like, there are things that are happening on the screen that I think might be telling me that, but I don't know. And you have to, like, come home and read up to figure it out.
Because it's sort of like geocaching.
It is.
But I think what I enjoyed about geocaching was more the treasure map aspect of it, where you sort of had to figure it out.
Right.
More than...
And there were clues, too.
And the thing is more hidden. It's like you actually have to find the log and find it underneath the log or
just
whatever.
Stick your arm into the tree with a raccoon in it.
That kind of thing. Whereas Pokemon, of course, you just get close to it and then it's there on the screen. So it's sort of like, I mean, I guess it is a kid's game and stuff. So, I mean, it has to be playable by a 6-year-old. But for me, for my interest, it would be like, I would need it to be a little more complex than just collecting all these Pokemons. But
I don't think I would want to just be like, what do you want to do today? Oh, I want to play Pokemon Go. Like,
right.
I feel like it's a nice
Are
little...
we going on a walk? Okay, I'll bring my phone with me.
A side thing to do, yeah.
But even saying that, I do not understand the visceral, against people who are into it.
Like that thing where people are like, I have better things to do with my time or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, well, then don't do this.
Yeah.
Why do you have to announce it? I saw a thing where they said that the different teams, because there's Valor and Instinct and Mystic. Valor is red, Mystic is blue, and Instinct is yellow. And so people are saying that, like, Valor is Gryffindor, Mystic is Ravenclaw, and Instinct is Hufflepuff. And that Slytherin is that dick that's like, I got better things to do with my time.
I mean, people sort of, when you see them out in the wild with their phone and they're, like, walking around in circles, I mean, they do look ridiculous and foolish. Mm-hmm. But so do people who are texting while they're walking. I mean, it's just sort of...
Or like talking to someone on their headphones.
Yeah. Arguing with somebody on their headphones. That's
it's sort of like the same reaction that people had to like people wearing Bluetooth headsets. Yeah. And now people don't seem to care about that.
Well, because everybody has it on their earbuds.
And some people still use those fucking Bluetooth earpiece things. It's a very specific kind of middle-aged...
tech guy who thinks he's really tech savvy.
Yeah, and like...
But you don't...
wears golf shirts and tucked into cargo shorts.
Well, and he has a holster for his phone.
Oh, God, yes, he has a holster for his phone.
But I haven't seen one of those guys in a long time, actually. Like,
That's because we don't go where those people go.
Well, no, they're usually around my work.
There
there used to be a lot of them around my work, and I haven't seen one of them probably over a year.
It's not businessy people. It's like...
Well, it's IT guys, I think.
I don't think it's IT guys anymore. I think it's like wannabe IT guys. Like, you know, the guy that's like in the family that you call when your computer's broken, but like...
Right. He doesn't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it was like... Because around my work, it's like low-grade business. Mm-hmm. It would be like the bankers in the bank branch. So they're not like Bay Street bankers.
Stopped.
Yeah.
They've stopped now. Like they definitely those were people who did it before.
But I think most people they just use their headphones mic and you don't And I think the people who do have Bluetooth get like picked on less because it's so normal now to see people walking around talking to nobody.
And also, a lot of people do that thing where they just hold the phone in front of their face and talk to it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I do that a little bit.
You do?
Well, I didn't used to have a microphone on my headphones.
You don't ever talk on the phone anyway.
I know. Very rarely. That's why, because it's hard for me to break the habit. And then,
you're like, I don't even know how this thing works.
It's my camera. Why is my camera talking to me?
You know what I noticed the other day when I was like moving a dresser in the bedroom? The little jack for like a home phone, like a landline. And I was like, oh my God. I remember like when knowing where that was or having one of those in your room was like important. And now it doesn't fucking matter.
For my unit at work, we got these new updated contact cards, like in case of emergency and stuff. So it has everybody's like cell phone number and then everybody's home number as well. And it was like, I can't believe half the people in my unit still have a home phone. This is crazy.
It's the same at my school. We get that thing. And a lot of people have more than one phone number to call.
Yeah.
Like, who are you people?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit weird. Like your number isn't on there at all. It's just for us calling. I guess it's a phone tree, really.
Yeah.
It's not not for like who to, like my manager has your number to call if a filing cabinet falls on me or something.
Be careful around filing cabinets.
Yeah. One of my coworkers
Make sure you load the bottom drawer.
I don't have anything in any of my filing cabinets.
That's fine. Just don't fill up the top drawer.
Yeah, one of my coworkers was trying to get a knitting needle out between two cabinets the other day. I was concerned that I was going to have to
help.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she was actually just looking for Pokemons under somebody's
That's
desk.
The other thing I don't understand about Pokemon is all the people who are like need to trespass to get these Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because it seems like
you get near them, you poke them on the screen, and they pop up right in front of you.
And they can be quite far away. Like,
yeah. Maybe that was an update. Maybe in the first iteration, you actually had to go in, and then they're like, oh, we better fix that.
Maybe.
People are getting shot.
The other thing that I think is weird, and I don't really know, but like there seems to be this idea that there's like this finite number of Pokemons, and if you and I are standing next to each other looking at a Pokemon, that we're going to see the same Pokemon and have to fight for it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's the case, but I feel like it's probably not the case.
It doesn't really seem like it.
No.
Like, because when we were on the walk, there was those people on the bikes, and they were clearly getting Pokemons from near that weird plant I saw.
Yeah.
But I don't think you saw any Pokemons on your map. And you probably should. We're probably close enough that you should have seen them.
Yeah, we were, because I was catching different Pokemons.
And I feel like that would be also a more interesting, because that's like part of the cartoon, was that there was a finite amount of Pokemons, and they were trying to...
Well, I'm sure there's a finite... Well, no, I don't know.
It seems
I'm
like
not sure of that, actually.
Actually, it just seems like it spawns as many as you need forever. Like, wherever you go, you're just going to get like...
Well, and I think you get better ones as you level up.
Yeah, like you get the Pidgeymongos more often than just Pidgeys now.
Oh, Pidgeotos? Yeah, mostly just Pidgeys, but yeah. Well, also, we were at the movies, and I caught that crazy one.
Right.
And, like, there's no way there weren't other people Pokemon Go in that theater.
Yeah.
And so, like, why would I catch that one? Like, I wouldn't. Like, I don't know.
Don't play yourself down like that.
I'm a woman. It's what I do.
Nerd. Here's a further appeal for you. I need supporters for this website. This simplysyndicated.com thing, this podcast network you've been listening to. We don't have ads, you see, but it takes money to run this and keep me willing to do it and all that kind of stuff, because I have to buy food and shit, in that order. So I need you to go to simplysyndicated.com/everything. And sign up to support us with just £6 a month, which is incredible. We appreciate it so much. It's awesome, you guys that already do it, and we, need every little bit we can get to help us out. So if you go there, simplysyndicated.com/everything, it's £6 a month to support us, and you get simply everything in return, which is our entire back catalogue of sort of 11 years worth of shows and exclusive content. Alternatively, we've got a Patreon, which is patreon.com/simplysyndicated. That's a $3 a month support donation, and I've been posting some exclusive content on there as well. So that's might be more up your alley. Or failing that, we actually just have a PayPal button where you can give us a little tip, throw us something in the jar, so to speak. And you'll find the link to that at the bottom of simplysyndicated.com. Right at the bottom. Just scroll down. It's there. There it is. Okay.
Perhaps more so, and more inexplicably, as far as I can tell, is
you found a wild inexplicably. Catch it.
Yeah.
Do you think that fart got picked up on the mic?
Maybe. We'll find out.
That'll be funny.
Maybe he should grow his beard longer. Wear more work inappropriate t-shirts.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You only wear that one on Friday. The one of the kitten that says, "Work? I don't think so."
I don't really wear that much anymore, just because it's summer and it's got one of those vinyl transfers on it, and sweat patches on the chest.
That was the best $2 I ever spent on that shirt.
Yeah.
The $2 rack.
Yeah.
Rack.
Yeah.
Rack.
Yeah.
Rack.
Yeah.